welcome to my channel. So the point of making videos for me right now is to share what I like about sneakers and what is interesting about them. Today I will be reviewing the Nike Kyrie 3, which came out in 2016, December 25th. This shoe right here is the blackout or triple black colorway, and it retailed for $120. I did not pay that for the shoe. I paid around $50 for these used but in great condition, and I played in these quite a lot, but it still has quite a lot of life in it. So let's get started. So first, initial impressions. Let's talk about some of the materials. The materials of this shoe is mainly made out of mesh on the uppers. I'd say overall the amount of padding you get is substantial, and you don't feel like there's an empty or like unsupported area in any part of the shoe. And I appreciate a toe guard. Nowadays shoes are all mesh and very like, either leather or some type of like elastic mesh that's on top, whereas like I prefer these traditional toe guards which protect your big toe, and it's actually really important. So I really enjoyed that. Overall, the lockdown of the shoe, once you tie it up, it's pretty supportive. You don't feel like your foot's rolling anywhere, and it wraps around every single part of your shoes. There's a lot of lace holes, 6, which is pretty good. There's a little bit of fly wire here, as you can see on these first two eyelets on both sides, and overall lacing is pretty good. This is your standard Nike lacing. Moving up a little bit to the tongue, pretty padded, but like not thin at all. You don't feel any pinching on the laces on your arch area, but very solid. Moving on to back here, this upper, as you can see, there's a little like rubber nubs on the side of this material right here that you can feel, and they do sometimes fall off if you don't try to scratch them, but it won't like just fall off from playing or anything. But it's mainly for design, and it's like a little spiral. You can't see it really well because this is a black shoe, all black except for like the bottoms, but it's there. Overall, these laces, and I care about laces quite a lot. I think these laces are like your standard 7 out of 10 laces, nothing special, nothing like, oh, I love these laces or anything. It ties down pretty well. It doesn't come untied. That's not an issue. I'd say it does fray sometimes, and the lace caps right here, it does feel like a little, like the aglets don't feel great. It does feel like it could eventually break off. It just hasn't yet. But if you don't take care of your shoes very often, like this is probably not the best laces, but overall solid, like nothing you can really complain about. Moving on to like ventilation and just like moisture trapping, I'd say any basketball shoe, no matter what you're playing in, like as long as you play pretty hard, you sweat, you're wearing socks, obviously, like you're gonna feel some moisture in it. Like obviously some shoes are more breathable, but even in like the most breathable shoe ever, for me personally, breathability has never been like my number one. It's like the 5th, 6th, like 7th most important. If it's like something you feel more lively in, that's great, but like support is far more important to me. This is not necessarily like a shoe where you feel like super sweaty. It does hold on to moisture, however, but I feel like it also dries pretty quickly. I'd say most Nike shoes do, although if you don't let any of your shoes air out, no matter what, it just depends on how much you take care of them. But like for standard use, I'd say not breathable by any means, but like not like hot by any means. So like just very standard, which is good. It's not like your feet don't feel like crazy in these or anything, but just standard. Okay, moving on to heel lockdown. Again, once you tie your foot down in these, although it doesn't feel like there's a huge bump, because sometimes you feel down here like, oh, there's a big bump, right? That means the heel lockdown is good. Not necessarily. So obviously these are mid top, so like usually the higher the cut is, the better support you have, and the eyelet here goes quite high. So usually Kyrie supports are always very good, and that stays true for these. But heel lockdown is good. Like the shoe won't pop off of your foot once you tie it down fully. Like you can't just slip them off. That won't happen. So the heel lockdown feels very natural, and if you get your right size, it fits pretty well. Moving on to fit, overall, I'd say it's very standard. It's not wide foot or narrow foot friendly. It's just very standard. Doesn't feel very narrow, but it doesn't feel very wide. Obviously, here you can see like what's not called the outrigger, but like as a little lateral flange on both sides that pop up. So when you're doing those crossovers or low to the ground movements, you do feel supported. And again, you have this like more elastic material, not fully elastic, but just slightly more elastic than this mesh material right here, that goes around like your let's say the ball of your toe area, but like on the top of that, which is where you're kind of like pushing off of mainly your foot. So that does feel nice. Once you've tied down, your foot doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It feels, because it's not very bottom or top heavy by any means, it feels very evenly distributed. So it feels like an extension of your foot, which you want all your basketball shoes to feel that way. So that's good. Moving on to the cushion in the midsole. Overall, I'm gonna break it down first. So it does have Zoom air in it, in the heel, but keep in mind this plastic piece, that's just to expose and for you to see it. But I'm guessing it's because they don't want like a rock or something to actually hit the Zoom and actually pop it. So they put this plastic piece, but the Zoom is actually underneath, and it's your standard like heel Zoom. I think it's like 7-8 millimeters. Don't quote me on that specifically. And you can see it under the stroke board. I took out the insole. You can see the relative shape of it right there in the back, and it looks something like this basically back there. It's slightly thinner than this one right here, but you get the idea. You can't really feel it because of the foam. It's very stiff. This is Nike Phylon foam. Keep in mind the shoe came out in 2016, so foam wise it's not great. I'd say durability is good, but the foam does feel very, very stiff, and overall I would say impact protection is not good on the shoe. You will feel hard landings, but I feel like because the shoe is such an extension of your foot, you do land softer, and you do roll into your landings more, but like your body has to compromise for the impact. You can't just like land carelessly. And if you land on your heel, the impact protection, even the Zoom, it doesn't do much. It feels very dead in the heel. Like if you hit this against a table, it feels like very clunky. But it doesn't feel clunky when playing it because it's just foam and there's no caging or anything on any side. So that's that. Okay, moving on to heel to toe transition, which I feel like all Kyrie's do a great job in. Let's see, let me move the camera so slightly. So heel to toe transition is good because it rolls very well, as you can see. So like it just rolls, and the heel, it is rounded and it does curve up a little bit, which is better than just like a flat sole. So it's very performance oriented, and you can also see if you lay it flat, there's an outsole curvature here, which is super important in basketball shoes. Most people don't really consider that in buying basketball shoes, but for your specific play style, to be able to push off laterally, like moving side to side, is so important. So it just feels like whatever you try to do with the shoe is what you're gonna get. Like if you push off in a certain way, like then you just stop where you want to stop. Like sometimes you feel like a little slow-footed in other shoes. You feel like you can't get exactly where you want to get. It feels like you want to compress that part, but it's not compressing. It feels like there's a little extra bit, but this feels like just an extension of your foot. There's no part of the shoe where I feel like, oh, I want to cut this part off because it feels unnecessary. For stability, it's quite stable. It's not the widest base, and it obviously rolls from inwards because of the outsole curvature, but rolling inwards isn't necessarily cause instability. It's mainly when it pronates outwards like this that you roll your ankle. Nobody really rolls it inwards because you should be pretty strong doing that, and most times your feet are spread this way, not just like inwards straight like that. Okay. So let me real quick talk about the insole of the shoe. If I can find it. Fell down. This is the stock insole. It's your standard ortholite insole, and I think insoles are really important in shoes. Some shoes have great insoles, and some shoes have bad insoles. This is your very standard 5 out of 10 insole. It does have this waxy layer, not waxy. I'm sorry, not waxy, but like this like honeycomb layer. Not honey. It's like cube squares. Sorry if you can see that. It kind of looks like ham. If you know that. And you have this pattern on the bottom too. It doesn't really do anything. You do feel it in your sock, but again, like this is just, I think they made it so it stands out a little bit. But very standard in ortholite insole. Not very. It compresses down and it becomes thinner, but it's not thick by any means. It's a thinner insole, and I just took it out because I don't want it to be glued down. I do play in a similar insole. Right here, this is the one I play in for this shoe specifically, and I usually take in and put different insoles depending on the shoe. This has ever so slightly more foam, but it's very thin right here on the ball of my foot, which is nice, which is where I've broken it. You can see here the foxing layer of it is like rubbing off already, and there's a little bit more of, it's not arch support, but it hugs your arch a little bit better, which I like, and the heel cup is like a slightly higher, which I also like, and it just feels nicer on my foot, so I just use this one. And there's like ever so slight bit of compression, which is nice. I just don't like these ortholite ones because they just feel kind of dead and old-fashioned, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, moving on to the outsole pattern. So obviously you can see in the front there's two pods, this pod right here and this pod right here. And if you look at the height, it sticks out ever so slightly than the rest of the midsole. So if you slide your finger from side to side, you can feel there's a little bit of a higher raised edge on the two pods. So they are pods, but they're not, like, and this shoe is all black, obviously outsole, so you can't really see it. But in other shoes where it's different colors, you can notice the two individual pods more prominently. And this rubber is very hard. I would say for outdoors you should be fine on these. They're only 120, so I think you can take these out, but the impact protection of the shoe, I wouldn't recommend it because your feet will hurt for like the next couple of days, and I don't think you want to go through that. But then also, as you can see, if you look closely, after the two pods, which is where, the high wear areas of the shoe is, but like here and here, these are smooth, very thick, both in terms of width and in terms of depth, like these panels. And what this does is, basically when you try to bend the forefoot, it bends, like if you look right here, it bends right where the middle reaches, where it's like the most pliable, which corresponds with the ball of your foot, which is kind of like an X pattern. I don't think too much about this, but I kind of do like this, where it makes sense. So like it makes here and here more stiff. Obviously the foam in general is quite stiff, so like bending the shoe and also torsional support, rigidity, it's very good. You don't feel like you're playing a mess, and it will last like this. It won't just like deform after a couple wears, which is very important to me. Yeah, okay. Now, moving on to the weight, the shoe does feel fairly lightweight. Like I don't think anyone would like feel heavy-footed in the shoe. Again, it makes you feel very confident, but the drawbacks are just how dead the cushion is, and I feel like you're always playing very careful of like your landings in the shoe, which does develop good habits, but like in the long term, I'd say you want a little bit more cushion in the shoe, and that this shoe just can't provide no matter what insole. If you put like a very soft, like very thick insole in this, I feel like you're taking away from like because this shoe again feels like a extension of your foot. Usually thicker insoles don't have these curves. They don't have these side panels. It's just usually like a thick flat insole, and it takes away from like the outsole curvature, the one-to-one fit, the court feel of the shoe. So you can't really get the best of both worlds in the shoe. Like for example, if you were to update this cushion into like cushion, for example, then it would bend too easily. And although the cushion would be good, it would like bottom out in 10 wears. If you use Zoom X in this, again, like I feel like they would have to cage it, right? So it would compress too much and it would deform the shoe, and it would be too bottom light, whereas the uppers would feel heavy in contrast. So that doesn't make sense either. So I think if you just made this phylon a little bit, like for example those like injective phylons, that would be better. It would feel ever so slightly nicer, and the cushion wouldn't be a weakness. It would just be not great, instead of a weakness of the shoe. So, um, overall, when I was actually playing these shoes, again, the biggest thing was how I rolled into my shot and the outsole curvature. Again, it doesn't like these features. You when you go to a shoe store, you won't notice these a lot, but when you're actually playing in this, day to day, those things like it stands out compared to other shoes. It just feels super natural and um, it's stable where it needs to be stable. It holds you in when you're doing side to side movements, and it's very reassuring. Um, so, what type of person is this shoe for? This is for a player, and it depends on. I mean, obviously, position. Some players conventionally, certain players need more support. Certain people need more court feel. Obviously, is more of a guard shoe, I would say. Uh, so this is a person who needs good traction, doesn't care about cushion much, needs great core feel, needs the shoe to support uh, their feet, instead of just like you're very sure-footed, and it's a very reassuring upper. So you want something like that, and you also don't care about getting these too dirty, because these won't stain, or I feel like when you wear these for 10 times, the shoe still performs like a shoe, whereas some shoes after certain wears it just starts to peel, or the lacings rip or something like that. This isn't a shoe that will happen. And I'm saying this as someone who takes care of their shoes. I'm not saying you don't, but if you do that, the shoe will last you a pretty long time. It shouldn't be an issue, and that's who the shoe is for. Overall, if I were to give this just a number score out of 100 being a perfect shoe with no weaknesses, and it just feels like the most perfect shoe, this would get a 81 in my opinion. For the right player, this can almost beat a 90, and I thoroughly enjoyed playing the shoe. And I feel like this is definitely in my rotation. Although this wouldn't be my go-to shoe by any means, just because of the cushion. And on certain courts, on certain slicker courts, like a new indoor court with a wax layer, this would be great for a LA Fitness court where it's kind of worn down and it's old wood. Not the best. It actually does slip out a little bit, just because, not because of the traction is not good. It's because the rubber is really hard. So usually softer rubber grips a little bit better on that, whereas this rubber, it's a hard compound. It feels very stiff. So on softer courts and on outdoors, obviously it would be great. Although that would wear out the shoe faster. Yeah. So again, I'd say I'll give this an 81 out of 100. Yeah. Okay. If you enjoyed this video, I appreciate it, and again, I'm making content just because I would like to share, just shoes in general. Obviously, I've also seen a lot of shoe reviews recently, and that's kind of motivated me to make my own reviews. However, I'd say a lot of them are sponsored, and they have affiliates, and I don't think most shoe reviews are from just their joy, although it could have started from that. Now it's because of the money, and it's because of their sponsors or their shoe companies and stuff. So I just want to bring a one-to-one, for your average buyer, or average basketball shoe consumer, a more realistic shoe review. So if you enjoy that, keep watching my videos. All right, thank you.